Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Popcorn Wind-Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. We will be discussing Amazon's hit, Sylvie's Love. It's about a young woman who meets an aspiring musician and their epic love story, which seems to transcend time and space. So, Tammy, what did you think of Sylvie's Love?
It really hit my romantic heart. It was so cute.
You have one of those?
Ah! How dare you speak such blasphemy? Well, okay. So I said, and I think I sent you the text message, and as well as my best friend was like, "Oh, have you seen Sylvie's Love?" And she was like, and I was just like, "No, I'm gonna watch it because we're doing an episode." She was like, "Okay." She was like, "Call me when you do." So I'm thinking through this whole movie, it's gonna be some intense stuff going on in this movie that I'm gonna have a discussion with her on. Where was the intense stuff? It was just a really, really nice love story, and I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, I really did enjoy. I didn't think that I was gonna like it. I was just this was Eddie's movie. I'm just watching it to watch it, but I actually did end up enjoying it. It was really cute. It was really sweet. Even the intense parts, I still I really enjoyed it. But yeah, it wasn't intense like people tried to tell me it was. Maybe you can inform me of where the intensity was, but I didn't see it.
Okay, I'm going to go technical again. I'm going to get technical.
Go for
I'm
it.
going to start off with the technical. I'm trying to sound professional here, okay?
Oh, okay.
I was told that I should sound professional.
Oh, God.
So I'm going to start off.
RM, y'all.
So I'm going to start off with the technical part. I love the way it was shot. I don't know if it's anything. My mom tells me I'm usually the only one that picks up on this.
Yes.
But the way it was shot, kind of in a Technicolor, you got that feel that it was shot on film from the actual 50s or 60s, when they first started shooting movies in color. So I love the camera work, and it really had this sense of, it took me back to an old school movie, if black leads were allowed to be black leads back in the 50s or 60s. This is the type of movie you would have seen. It channeled An Affair to Remember or those types of movies. And I know you've never seen An Affair to Remember, so I'm not even going to set myself up for that heartbreak.
Don't do it.
Okay. But it kind of channeled that whole Breakfast at Tiffany's feel or that Affair to Remember type thing. So this was the epitome of a truly throwback black love story. And they more or less were cute, and they were subtle about the things that they dealt with. Whereas we didn't see when they actually consummated their relationship, we wouldn't have seen that from a movie back then either. So I did appreciate that, and I loved it. I thought it was good. It was cute. The intensity probably came in, I don't know. It wasn't intense in the way that we would think of intense, because we could have taken it when she found out she was pregnant. We could have taken that a million different places. The whole question of whether or not to keep it or get rid of it, that's not anything that would have ever come up in a movie from that time. Even though it is a conversation, let's be real, it is a conversation that they had during those times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. I guess I understand where the intense parts are supposed to be. I just didn't get that. I just saw it as a really good love story on them falling in love and putting each other first a lot of times, and not realizing that by putting each other first, you were hurting the person that you were trying to put first. At the same time, by the decisions that they were making with a lack of communication and not communicating with each other and saying exactly what you wanted, and it was really, really cute. It was cute.
Yeah. I love the characters. I love the actors. I want to say this is Nnamdi Asamoah's first role. I know he had been producing. And for those who don't know, Namdi Asama, he used to be a football player. He was a corner, a hell of a corner. He played for the San Francisco 49ers, and he is married to Kerry Washington. And I know he's produced several movies. This isn't his first movie producing, but this is his first starring role. And he was actually really good in it. And of course, I love Tessa Thompson. Like, you know, and my love for her goes back to Veronica Mars. And I hated the character she played on Veronica Mars, but I love her as an actress.
Ooh,
so
I never watched Veronica Mars, so I really don't.
I'm gonna ask the question: how do we do this? How can we continue to do
okay,
this?
so I've seen episodes of Veronica Mars. I was not a fan of the show, but I love Kristen Bell. So I did watch episodes of the show, and I actually was a huge fan of Veronica and Logan, which is crazy seeing as how I was not an actual fan of the show. But I did like her and Logan. I watched the movie when it came out because I was really excited. But I was never a true fan of the show. So of course I've never seen an episode where with Tessa Thompson in it. So I don't know what character she played or anything like that. But
second season, you have to go to the second season.
Yeah, no, not gonna rock that. It's just not gonna happen. But
that's my heart breaking.
It's okay. It's okay. I feel like I've broken your heart many times. You should be used to it by now. So, yeah. But I love the storyline of it was an instant attraction between the both of them when she finally actually met him. He noticed her beforehand. But when she finally saw him, you could tell like it was an instant attraction on both sides. And it was like something they couldn't deny. Like they just instantly fell for each other. And I love that. It was just so, it was nice. It was nice to see a movie where it wasn't Malcolm and Marie. Let's put it like that. Like, it was so the opposite of Malcolm and Marie. Like, that I just enjoyed sitting there and just watching their love story. And even when they broke up, when he was going to Paris and she chose not to tell him about the baby, to make sure that he actually went and he didn't stay behind. And then when he ended up doing the exact same thing and making the exact same decision for her that she made for him, when he told her that he didn't want her to come to Detroit with him because he ended up not having a job available. I even like that because they may have been the wrong decision to make because they did not take the other person's feelings and, you know, they took their autonomy away on making the decision for them. But the whole storyline was really, really nice. Like, it wasn't boring. Like, it flowed very well. I wasn't bored at all throughout the whole movie. Like, I just loved it. Like, I really did. Like, it just makes me smile just thinking about it. Like, it was just so cute.
Yeah, it was, I love that, it was the antithesis of Malcolm and Marie. Let's just be, you know, if we're going to compare the two, they show the different spectrums of Black love. The beginning and what would probably be the end.
Yeah. Touché.
But
yes.
So I love that this was. I love when she finally stands up and she starts fighting for herself. And I think I understood what they did. And you're right, they did take away the autonomy by making unilateral decisions for each other.
Yeah.
But I understood why. You know, and they both wanted the other to pursue their dream, and they didn't want them to have to choose. Because that's the one thing that I would always hate. It's like, you never want someone to have to choose between you loving you and living their dream. Because sooner or later, especially if that dream does not pan out or the relationship doesn't pan out or something, they're going to end up resenting you, because it's always going to be this question of what if. You know, if he went to Paris and the band didn't make it, or the band didn't, at least he would have known he went for it. He wouldn't have to say, if it weren't for you, because that's the last thing you would ever want, is someone to say, if it weren't for you, I could have been this, or I would have had a shot at this. You know, so I kind of understand it but I think they went about it the wrong way. Like, they had horrible communication.
They did. Like I just feel that at the end of the day, like it's on the person if they feel resentment on giving up their dream. But when you're pregnant, I felt that she should have given him the option to choose. And telling him that you're pregnant and then having him decide, did he want to stay and help you raise the baby, or did he want to go for the couple months that he was going to be in Paris? Like, how was that? And that's what I mean. Like, because if he had decided to stay and he had given up his dream, not everybody gets to a point of resentment because they gave it up, because some people are honestly satisfied with the fact that, yes, you're not going to be a famous saxophonist, or I forget how you say it. You're not going to be a famous person who plays the saxophone and is a jazz player, but at the same time, like, you know, you're supporting your family and your pride is your family. There are people who have that thought process. I don't think that giving up one dream doesn't mean that having a family wouldn't be a dream that you're going to achieve just because you're not going to be famous. And I think that that's what I mean by she took it away from him. She didn't give him the option of changing his dream in order to be with her. Instead, she chose to break his heart and send him to Paris. And yes, you know, he had some success, but it ended up the same way that it would have if she had just told him in the beginning.
I mean, I understand that. I'm not saying you all live with resentment, but you know, he wanted to go pursue his calling as a sexy porn star. Inside joke.
I'm sorry, that's an inside joke.
So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
but
okay. Back on track.
So you know, I get, even though I understand what she did, I'm not saying that she was right. Don't get me wrong. I'm with you. She should have told him. But I understand why she did it. And also, you know, she was young and it was new. And I think also she had to go through what she went through because she learned how to stand up for herself.
Yeah.
You know, and the first moments when she starts standing up for herself, especially with her husband. So she does end up marrying the guy, Lacey. Oh my gosh, you know what I wrote down for him? And even though I knew his name, I called him Dickie.
Oh my God.
I guess just because when I was writing it down, I was like, you're such a dick.
You gave him his own nickname, Dickie.
And for people who don't know, I give everybody nicknames. I do. But that was Lacey's nickname. And it says, Dickie is an asshole. Wow, so poetic. But so it was like, in a sense, I kind of wanted to see what the relationship, because it was the relationship, you know, and we have to look at it through the lens of what relationships were back in that time, you know, and not necessarily through the 21st century independent woman lens. So I kind of took that hat off a little bit. And even from that perspective, he was still an asshole. And my thing is this, was it because he knew he was raising another man's child? Or
I think it was, and I feel that it's not necessarily that he was an asshole. He was a man of his time. I think that is how her mother raised her. It just happens to be that she was more her father's daughter than she was her mother's daughter. So based on the fact of which parent she was similar to, is why it made it look like he was more of an asshole. But at the same time, like, he was part of like the upper black society. So how he acted, it was just kind of how it was. So I married you. You knew you were going to be a housewife. Like, working was going to be a side gig. It's just like when she got the job and then he told her, well, I have a work dinner. They're coming to the house on Friday. And she said, oh, well, you know, I have to work on Friday. And he said, remember what I said? We agreed you can have a job as long as it does not interfere with your daily duties. And that's a conversation that they had. That's how she got him to agree to her having a job. I don't think that his reaction was more of him being an asshole, but on the fact of saying that she knew what she entered into when she married him, and she knew what type of wife she was supposed to be. It just so happened that her aspirations was not on the level of the type of wife that he wanted her to be. Like, her aspirations went beyond that, you know?
Yeah, I get that. Like, he was a man of his time, and I understand the whole, you know, you can work as long as it doesn't interfere with your duties as a wife and a mother. And I loved how she took that pot roll. She's like, "What do you do with the guest of honor after you're done?"
Yeah, because I got a meeting, I got a dinner I got to go to. So let me roll this out real quick.
Yeah, so I love that. Like, I get that, the working part, but it was just, and I guess even with that, he wasn't, and again, a man of his time, and that's why I say you have to separate the lens. But even for him being a man of his time, he still wasn't very understanding or attentive. Like, even when her father died, you know, it was still like, how dare you be in here sulking? We have guests to
She wasn't sulking though. She was working. Like, I was with him with that. Like, I understood where he was coming from when he said, like, you have guests. Like, we have people here to pay homage to your dad, and you're in here working.
But I took that more as her coping mechanism, because I know that, like, some of the worst times of my life, grief makes you do strange things, and just not think about it, you do weird shit. And so I understood that. I took that as her coping mechanism. So it was just like, okay, give her a moment, let her be. And even when he found out how important her job was, like when she became producer or something. Wait, what? Has she just started and he wanted to take them to Disneyland? And she was no, she had just started.
She had just started.
Yeah. And so it was just like, he still came across as a little cold, even for a man of that time. I'm like, okay, they can't, and maybe even comparing him to her father. He seemed more like her mother. Like, him and her mother would have been a perfect match.
But I feel like that's a perfect comparison to make, on that she was her father, but Lacey was her mom. And so her mom, because her mom was, she would be seen as being cold-hearted, but there was an image that she wanted to be projected about her family. That's the reason why her father gave up his career in music in order to raise her, and to take care of his family, because that was the expectation that her mom had when he married her. And I think that is the same thing she had a career, but this was a time when women, it was frowned upon for women to have a career, especially when your husband made enough to support you and the family. It was frowned upon for you to have a career, especially when you were supposed to be like the anchala of the Black society. Then you weren't supposed to work. You were supposed to do whatever is necessary to make sure your husband always looked good. And I think that her personality just didn't fit that. And that's what the issue was, because I don't even think I never got the feeling that he held it against her that he was raising another man's child. I do one of my pet peeves, and I hate this because even in reality, people do this, is when you divorce and you've been raising somebody for years.
You just fall off. You just fall.
Yeah, like you just completely like stop. And I hate that. And I know it happens in real life. I have a friend who went through that, where like her stepdad just like disappeared on her after him and her mom divorced. And I was just like, so it's like you never, the kid that called you her dad, like, it's just no more. Like you're never gonna see her again just because her own like her birth father came, like, or her blood father came back, or and I'm just like, I hate that. Like, I absolutely hate that about human nature well, they're not my blood, or they don't have my DNA, so I don't no longer have to take care of that child. I'm just like, we're not gonna think about the kid. that threw me off. But I do think that she knew what she got into when she married him.
She did, and he did too.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I was gonna say, he kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, I think and maybe this is where it comes from. When they had the argument, when she told him she wanted a divorce and she couldn't do it anymore, and he said that he loved her, but they both knew she would never be the one he truly loved. And I think part of the reason why she went through with the marriage is because it was expected of her, and
Yep.
she could hide the fact that she was pregnant with someone else's kid, and that was the deal they made. And maybe part of why he was the way he was, and I guess that's why, me always wanting to dissect stuff. I would have loved to see what their relationship was like before,
Th-
like
This the same
because
way. I I
I
don't think that it was any. I don't think there was any difference. Like, if you considered him to be cold in the present day of the movie, he was the exact same way before he went to war. Like, he was the exact
well
same way. I don't think he
so
changed. I just think,
Well, I mean, so okay, and I get that maybe she's the one who changed, but that's it. Like, maybe she didn't change either. Maybe she just realized that I don't know, like just that he was. I don't know. I think for her, more than anything, it became the marriage was one of expectation, and it was one to kind of save face on the fact that he was willing, even after he came back and found out she was pregnant with another man's baby, he was still willing to, be with her and marry her, and they were going to have this perfect life. And I think maybe she thought she could settle because you could tell even before he came back, she was unhappy.
yeah,
So,
it was
you
expected.
know.
Yeah, from the expectation. I just don't. I think that if they were poor in black, it would be a different like story on his
Oh, she would have
character.
had to work.
Well, yeah, but I think just the marriage as a whole, even if he had still married her, like, I think that he would have been viewed differently, because I feel like his personality matched the fact that they were high society of the black community. Um, and so, like, his expectations were basically on the same level as um white society at the time, and she knew that, yet it didn't fit her personality because she never completely flowed in that world. She only did it because of her mother. And her acknowledging the fact that this is not the world that I want to be in, and this is not who I am, finally, is it was great. But at this, like, you can't hold it against him for you giving into his expectations and then pulling away just because he enjoyed the fact that you, I don't know. Like, I was just like you kind of set yourself up. You married him, so saying that you could not be who you were, like, yeah, that's expected. Like, you wouldn't be who you were. You married into him, and you knew the contract that you signed by marrying him on what type of wife you needed to
Well,
be.
and I think she thought she could do that. I think, like I said, I think it was more or less that she went into it. She went into it thinking that she could. She went into it thinking that this is going to be okay. And I think as she started really discovering who she was and that she was able, because like you said, in that time, women, we it wasn't acceptable for us to work. We were totally dependent on men for everything, and that was the identity, wife and mother, and that was it. You know, um, expected to have sex when they wanted to have sex. Expected to drop whatever it is we were doing at a moment's notice to host a dinner party for you and your fancy clients. Damn what we had planned or any of that. So and because that was how she was raised and that was the expectation. Um, and it was a privilege for her. Like, she probably did have to go to him and beg and plead and make deals to get the part-time job she had. And and I think she was okay with that at first just because, she had a little something of her own. But then when she actually was able to start working towards her dream job, I think it started to change for her. And it had nothing to do with the love of her life coming back into her life. So even if it hadn't been for him, I don't know that marriage would have lasted.
I think it would
Um,
have.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think because of the, like, I'm thinking of, movies and everything that I've seen where she would have suffered through for the whole entire life of her daughter, if Robert hadn't come back into her life. She would have, like, she would not have gotten divorced because it was been a disappointment to her mom, and that's one reason why she went through with it in the end. I don't think that she would have decided to just leave him if it wasn't the fact that Robert came back and she had a fallback plan. Not saying that because he was her first plan, but she had the love of her life came back, and it changed her perspective on the marriage that she had. And so I think that allowed her to step away from the marriage that she had with Lacey and go. But I think she would have suffered through if Robert hadn't come back.
But I don't think so, because okay, she had that one night with Robert, and then she went to meet him at the jazz club, and she misunderstood what was going on with him and the stripper chick. I forgot her name. Just gonna call her stripper chick. And so we're led to believe that at that point there is more time. There's another few years that go by, and her dad gets sick. But so her and Robert hadn't been in contact when she told Lacey she was done. Like they had been out of each other's lives in orbit again. So, and even when Robert found out, like, that's the next thing. Do you think her dad was? And I understood why he did it now, because he was on his deathbed, but it still was not his secret to tell. But I guess he wanted to die with a clear conscience. But even after Robert found out, he still didn't go back. He still didn't do anything about it. And I guess that was out of respect for her and the choices that she made. He only went back this next time once he found out that she had already gotten divorced. So her divorce had really nothing to do with her.
But it did. It even if he wasn't in her actual life, the fact that he came back, it kind of opened back up her heart to the fact that she didn't want to stay with Lacey. And even if Robert was not in her life, he was out there. And it was a possibility. But then I think that that's what kind of pushed her to like wake up and be like, okay, this is not what I want. I don't think that if Robert hadn't come back and opened up her mind to that possibility, that she would have divorced Lacey. I do think that she would have suffered through on raising her daughter with him, rather than like leaving him and divorcing him and trying to do this on her own. I think that Robert opened up her mind to the fact that she did have an option, and she could, if at any time, go back to him. And he was there. Not even if they didn't end up together at that point, like, I think him coming back at all is what changed the whole perspective that she had on her marriage with Lacey.
I'm gonna pull one of your lines. We're gonna have to agree to disagree on it. I mean, I get what you're saying, and it's a very valid point, but I don't completely agree. So we're gonna agree to disagree on that one. Ah, I pulled a Tammy. I'm 3 for 3 today. I'm batting 1,000. But yeah, but we were talking about the patriarchy and the man, and Robert, he fit into that too, even though it was a little bit different, because the decision he made at the end, like, she, when he didn't have a job, she was like, I can take care of us, because she was balling out of control. Like, she was a female producer. She was the Black Lucille Ball. She was producing the show and everything like that. And so she was making a good living. She was the bread earner. And he was determined to go to Motown. And even then, she was expected to give up her job and everything for him. And that was a decision that she made. She's like, okay, but you see that she wasn't going to be content with just being relegated to the housewife role. Like, when he was in Detroit, she'd been making calls and moves to get in at the station in Detroit and all that other kind of stuff. She wouldn't have had the exact same position, but she at least had her foot in the door. So she was still trying to find ways to hustle. And I appreciate that. But when he didn't get the job, it's like his pride, like when he found out his friend was full of shit, it's like at that point, it was his pride. Like, I can't live off of my woman. Like, dude, you could have worked at a factory in New York, or you could have done, you could have found another job in New York. It wasn't just
we are going to disagree on everything. Because I understood where he was coming from. Like, how would he be viewed in the world when he talked to his friends and everything like that if she was supporting him as well as their daughter. And it just was not going to be a good look for him. And he had all
Until
these...
he got a job.
Huh?
Until he got another job. It's like, I'm not telling you to be a stay-at-home dad. I'm just telling you, until you find a job, I got
But until he found a job. And so it was, he had to find a job first. And he didn't want to go any time where it could be looked upon as he wasn't a real man, because he could not support his family, because you don't know how long it would have taken him to go through unemployment. They didn't have those, because he ended up doing exactly what he did before he went into his career, playing the saxophone, because he worked at the plant. He worked at the car plant before he went into the profession of playing the saxophone. He just went back to it. They ain't had none of that in New York. There was no car plant in New York at the time.
They had factories.
They had factories, but they didn't have, because he ended up back at the same one that he was working at. So I think that just on him trying to find a job in New York, the amount of time that it may have taken him, he did not want to take any time, because he would have felt less than a man. And anyone who found out that she was supporting them, then it wouldn't have been good for him. His ego, yes, it goes back to his ego, and I understand, patriarchy. But I just think back to like that time, and I'm just like, I understand it. I understand he ain't want his woman paying for him. not for one day. He wanted to earn his own pay.
Damn his fragile little ego and that damn patriarchal pride.
I agree. That was the expectations of society, that the man just took care of the family, and you were made fun of if your woman made more than you, or if she was the one who was the breadwinner, then you were made fun of. And not to say I agree with it, because I think it's stupidity, but I understood why he did what he did. Where he was just like, no, and then ended up in Detroit working at the same car plant, because and then also what I also think it was is that he didn't want her to give up her career. And if not every factory is the same way on the machines that you use and everything like that. So even if he still had to go back to Detroit in order to make sure he could get a job where he knew how the job worked, she would have had to give up her career. And I think that was the decision that he made, so she didn't have to do that.
Well, she and I am glad, I guess when she said, when he asked her to go and she said yes, and I was like, no, because me, I was like, don't give up your job, don't give up your dream. But when he came back and she was excited, because she was like, hey, it works out, I got a job, I was there, I may not be producing my own show right away, but I have a job, my foot's in the door, and she could work her way, and it's guaranteed that it wouldn't take her very long to get to where she was when she left New York. So I understood that, and and it was just like, to me, it was just his pride. I understand it, I get it. I mean, I understood what he did. I even wrote it down. Understood the decision, but hated it, and I put hated it in caps. And I put pride, so it was that damn patriarchal pride. But I get it.
And she did the same thing to him, so I guess he was payback.
They kept doing. They had horrible communication.
Yeah, because she took away his chance to raise his own daughter for 5 years of her life. Well,
he got the chance back, because I want to know. It's like, okay, do they ever tell the little girl that Mr. Robert is her real daddy? Because by the end, when they out there making sandcastles in the beach and shit, he did get her to go to the beach, which she originally hated or she was scared of or whatever. So, I asked, did they ever tell Michelle the truth?
I guess we'll never know. That'll just be something else that's just up in the air.
But I also loved when they got into the fight, and he basically told her he didn't want her to come to Detroit. And she told him, well, this time when you leave, stay gone. Like, you can't keep coming in and out of my life like this.
She was a tough lady, I'll say that much.
She was, like, when she finally grew into herself, like, the one person I would have loved to see her go off on and stand up for herself too was her mother. I would have loved to see that.
I thought that was kind of like that wasn't really like I want to say explored, I guess, on just that the last time we really saw her mom was when she had the conversation and she said, basically that Robert was below her station, and then that was really it. And I was just like, girl, ooh, you need to grow some balls. Oh wait, that would be the wrong statement, right?
She needs to grow some chesticles, stick her, like, yeah, stick it out there with her boobs and be like, yeah.
Oh gosh.
But I love the supporting cast: Asia Naomi King, and Jean Page, I'm just gonna say Jean Page. And Eva Longoria was in it too. I love the manager. She was funny. The white French lady, and stuff. And one other relationship I kind of wish they would have explored is you knew that band wasn't going to stay together long, because the real star of the band was Robert, and not the. Oh, that's why I said Dickie. The Dickie Brewster band, or Dickie Brewster quartet.
Oh, yeah.
The piano player, he was an asshole too. But yeah. So what did you think of Sylvie's Love, this throwback romance?
I gave it a solid 3. It was cute. I enjoyed it. It hit my romantic heart.
Which you don't have, but okay.
How dare you speak such blasphemy? If I didn't have a romantic heart, I wouldn't watch so many K-dramas. So
I was gonna say, since it's Valentine's Day, I will take that back. We're recording this Valentine's Day weekend.
But yeah, I gave it a solid 3. It was really cute. It was very romantic. Would I suggest people watch it? Yeah, if you ain't got nothing else to watch. I would not say it's something that like, yo, you gotta watch Sylvie's Love. Like, you're going to love it. Like, no, like, unless I have friends who are like me, where they like romance movies, and they just want to watch something, I would tell them to watch Sylvie's Love. But it's not something that my friends need to watch. Like, it's not something I would suggest everybody needs to watch Sylvie's Love. That is a no, but I enjoyed it. It gets a solid 3 popcorn from me. What about you?
I am going to give it a solid 3.75.
Is that based on the technical part?
What? Why are you cutting off my?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad. 3.75. My bad. Go ahead.
That was the sound of my heart breaking, but you do know me well. Yeah, a lot of it was on the technical. I love the fact that it was a throwback to the 50s and 60s love stories, the love stories that we never got to see about ourselves. And I love that, it wasn't overly sexualized, and we're starting to see ourselves in those roles and in those films. And what, it was a bit of nostalgia. What would have been if we could have been cast in the lead and Breakfast at Tiffany's and Affair to Remember and all of that. So it was a cute movie. I think it fit the season. Is it something that I just absolutely would love to watch again? Is it something that's going to go in my movie rotation? No. Would I watch it again? Yes. Would I recommend it? Yes. But so I probably would be with you somewhere probably in the 3.25 range. But like I said, I love the cinematography of it, the nostalgia. So for the technical, I give it the 3.75. So that, my dear sweet friends, does it for this episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. And as always, I want to thank you for joining us. And be sure to tune in next week when we will discuss. Tammy, you got your fist up?
Go ahead. I'm ready.
Power to the... Okay. Judas and the Black
Power to the people.
Power to the people. All right. And until then, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.